Hey everyone, it's the year 1999, coming back at you in another video. In today's video, we will be revisiting the world of a modern-day D&D. About 2 years ago, I made a video talking about using a 21st century world as a campaign setting for your D&D adventure. It's not super important that you watch that video to understand this one, but I would appreciate the watch minutes. Anyway, in that last video, I discussed technology meeting the magical world and magic meeting the technological world. I talked about some quest ideas and even went over how technology might affect adventuring in addition to overviewing some custom backgrounds that I had made. What I didn't realize at the time, though, was that there's an unearthed Arcana PDF talking about modern magic. Today we're going to be going over the content there, as well as one of my own homebrew subclasses, as well as a little surprise towards the end. Now, this PDF introduces 14 new spells, most of which are sort of technomagic versions of pre-existing spells. So let's go over them, shall we? Starting with Arcane Hacking. This effectively gives you a magical boost to breaching computer security. Next is Conjure Nobot. This is kind of like an arcane eye, but it can interface with a computer as long as it stays near you. Then there's Commune with City. Basically commune with nature, but it's in the city. Then there's Digital Phantom. This is like Pass Without a Trace for avoiding computer admins when you're, hacking around through some files that maybe you shouldn't be accessing. You know how that goes. Next is Find Vehicle, one of my personal favorites. It's basically the vehicular version of Find Steed, and if you upcast the spell, then you can get more powerful vehicles, like, a boat, or some kind of flying machine. That's always fun. And, this is just an interesting idea. Like, sure, it's not necessarily a combat spell, but it's a great utility spell to get your party from place to place. Then there's Haywire, which lets you short-circuit a computer, which can be pretty useful if someone's using a computer for something you don't want them to. Then there's Infallible Relay. This lets you magically call a person that you know anywhere in the world, provided that they have a phone nearby. Now, I know that seems kind of underwhelming in our world of phones, but it is pretty useful. Imagine being able to call that one guy that you met in Paris that one time because he has a vital piece of information that you need, but you're having trouble looking him up online. That would be a pain to be able to connect in our world. But hey, if you have a spell to cast that make them just pick up the phone, there you go. Then there's Invisibility to Cameras. Pretty straightforward with this one. The effect is right there in the title. Now you might be wondering, why would I go up to Invisibility to Cameras? Why wouldn't I just cast Invisibility? Well, there's a couple of useful reasons. One, let's say you want the people in the room to know who you are, but you don't want the cameras. Like, for instance, you're trying to trick someone, so you say, hey, look, we're on camera right now, everyone can see what I'm doing, and you'll have the footage later to prove what happened here. Well, not if you're invisible to cameras. And furthermore, you can attack or cast spells while being invisible to cameras, but doing that with normal invisibility would end the effect of the invisibility. So yeah, a lot of really interesting workarounds here. Then there's On/Off, which lets you basically interact with, on-off switches from a distance, being able to turn things on and off again.
This light bulb represents knowledge, and without its energy and warmth, within minutes, Roger would die.
Life, death, life, death, life, death, life, death, life, death!
Patrick!
Sorry.
Then there's Protection from Ballistics, which lets you resist damage that comes from bullets. Because, it's a game world with guns, you're going to want some protection from them magically. Then you have Remote Access. This one lets you sort of activate a device from a distance. Like, there's a ton of really great applications for this, but obviously I think we can all agree that the best application of remote access would be to ring someone's doorbell while you're already running away from them. Yeah. I think we can agree that's for the best. Then there's Shutdown, which is basically a magical EMP to just turn off all the electronics in an area. Then there's Synchronicity, which it's a good luck field. That's the best way to describe it. So 4-leaf clovers and horseshoes for everyone. And last but certainly not least, there is System Backdoor. This spell gives you administrator level permissions to a computer. Lets you, just sort of take one over. Yeah, imagine how horrifying that would be if you could just magically access anyone's computer like that. Security systems, banks, utilities, air traffic. Creative players will find great uses for this spell. And there you go, 14 more spells to play with. These would, fit into any sci-fi D&D game. Obviously, these are based around technology meaning magic, but a few of these could work in a normal game. Synchronicity is easy to justify because, luck is important to everyone. If firearms exist in your setting, then protection from ballistics would work. Let's see, there's ways that you could justify fine vehicle, like maybe you let them make a horseless carriage or a horse-drawn carriage, and then, of course, boats are boats, so what party doesn't want to be able to summon a boat? And lastly, maybe you could say that the effect of the spell Haywire also affects magical machines, or, old-style machinery like a water wheel. And so, yeah, there you go, 14 new spells, and some of them can be applied to regular D&D. Now, next up, in addition to these spells, there's also a number of subclasses. The City Cleric is first up. Basically, it's a cleric that taps into the spirit of the metropolis. At level 1, they get access to a number of spells, including the on/off cantrip, very useful. They gain proficiency in sidearms and land vehicles, yeah! And once per rest, they can give themselves a bonus to deception, intimidation, or persuasion. And as you can imagine, giving yourself a boost to intimidation while, leaning out of a car holding a gun to someone that you're chasing is really, really going to scare them. Next, their Channel Divinity lets them seize control of the utility system, so a lot of fun that can be had there. Maybe flood the streets with a fire hydrant. At level 6, they gain expertise in insight and perception, but only while they're inside of a city. And then at level 17, they can teleport themselves from one transit stop to another within the confines of the same city. So yeah, bus stop teleportation. Very helpful. And you know something? A lot of these effects, they specify that you must be in a city to use them. Now, we could talk back and forth all day as to what actually qualifies as a city. Like, does a village count, small town, county area? What if it's a very populated farming district? But anyway, my question, that's also a good question that we can discuss below. But my other question is, what if a city was built on top of or around a dungeon? Like, if the dungeon is the sewers beneath the city, would all of these city effects work there? A lot of interesting stuff to figure out here. Now, our next subclass, though, is the Ghost in the Machine Warlock. These guys basically gain power from some sort of digital consciousness, kind of like the Oversoul in Orson Scott Card's Homecoming saga, if you've read any of that. At level 1, they also get access to the on/off cantrip, and, some other spells as well, but on/off is the best, as we all know. Once per rest, they have a power that they can use to try to force a computer to freeze up, which can really come in handy if, once again, someone's using a computer in a way you don't want them to. At level 6, they also get their own teleportation feature, but it's only, across things like telephone wires and to a much shorter range than the Cleric has. Then at level 10, they can effectively encrypt their thoughts to be protected against mind reading, and then at level 14, they're able to use their advanced understanding of the mind to effectively hack into someone else's head. So a lot of interesting stuff there. Last up from this UA is the Technomagic Wizard. At level 2, they get access to sidearms and hacking tools, and they can even trade in their spellbook for a computer, which would actually be a really interesting idea. A tablet with a spellbook app on it. Maybe you justify all of your magic just coming from a very sophisticated, tablet system. Maybe it's mounted to your arm or whatever. Like, it can shoot energy blasts from it. Can be used to interface with other people. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right? But that's just an idea. You don't necessarily have to go with that. Could just be a magically imbued smartphone that you use to store your spells. Now, at level 6, they get what's effectively a lesser version of Glyph of Warding. This sort of lets them use a computer to set up a delayed version of a spell that can last for up to 2 days. When a specific trigger is activated, causes the spell to be activated. Still a lot of fun you can have with that. At level 10, they get the ability to target a creature with a spell from across the internet. So yeah, you're just talking to someone and you're able to charm them through a video camera. That could definitely have a lot of utility. And then lastly, at level 14, they can actually use the computer to concentrate on a spell for them. So yeah, you don't even have to keep the person charmed. The computer will do it themselves. And that was really all for this UA, but like what I did for Monk, I wanted to try making one of my own subclasses to fit in with this. And I'm going for Druid. Now, you may have expected me to do something with city parks, druids, and all that, but I decided to go at it in a very different direction. I give you the Circle of the Concrete Jungle Druid. Now, that might sound anti-druid, but think about it. Cities are their own ecosystem. Woods are like a natural city. In a manner of speaking, a plant is a factory. Or, dare I say it, a plant is a plant. Now, in the player's handbook, there's a roleplay suggestion that most druids won't use metal weapons and armor, but if there was ever a time to ignore this suggestion, it's, going to be right here. Now, let's go over the kind of features that this thing has. At level 2, they start off by getting the Thieves' Cant language, as well as proficiency in firearms, which will come in handy throughout the city. Then, at level 6, there's the Pollution filter, where they become less deterred to all of the artificial outputs of the city. They gain resistance to both acid and poison damage. And once per turn, if they want, they can channel this to effectively power up their own attacks with added acid or poison. Kind of like a smite. At level 10, they get their own teleportation ability, except this lets them teleport a small group of people to a nearby location. And at level 14, they basically get the ability to make themselves appear car-like. What does that mean? Well, their body becomes metallic, they can move around very quickly, and they're a lot sturdier for about 1 minute. They can just, run around running people down and taking all the hits, and they're immune to poison and acid damage during that time. So, there you go, the Concrete Jungle Druid. You know something? Maybe I should make a Park Ranger subclass. Maybe another time. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for this, and, man, also, in this video, just like the last one, I didn't give a ton of thought to artificers. They would fit very well in a modern campaign. I mean, after all, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right? And there's been, tons of ideas of sci-fi-esque artificers who flavor their magic as just being tech. So yeah, you can definitely have fun with that. And so, all of this got me thinking a little bit about the video game Grand Theft Auto. And since it's been a while since I've had a dedicated video talking about, applying some other fandom and putting it into D&D, we can take a few minutes to talk about GTA. So this type of a game can be very conducive to basically be an intentional murder hobo game. Now, I know murder hobo, it's got a very bad connotation, but that's usually just because, you have like, a few murder hobos who are kind of dragging down the experience for the rest of the table, or maybe the DM put a lot of effort into trying to make these elaborate stories, but the party just wants to run through stabbing everything. But if everyone's on the same page, then this can be a really fun experience. You all just agree ahead of time, yeah, we're going to play some D&D, and you know what? It's going to be violent. We're going to go around stealing what we want and just shooting random people. Why not? D&D, let's have some fun with it. But yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of fun that can be had with this for some various quests. Maybe the party has to go around taking out various, gang members that they that are posing a threat to their allies. Maybe they have to recover a drug shipment. Maybe they just need to clean up the streets a little bit, a violent way. That could be interesting. Sort of GTA style vigilante. You just, you get the results you want, even if it's a bit of a violent way of doing them. Yeah, all these villagers here, they're very evil. They peddle illicit substances to minors. And so, yeah. And also, feel free to have plenty of weapons hidden throughout the city for them to find and have fun with. Okay, enough of that. But yeah, that's all I really have for today's video. If you want to check out some more from me, you can actually see me in action as a dungeon master. through my show, Enter the Dungeon, a Brotherly Pudcast. That's an actual play D&D campaign that's been going on for over 3 years now. Right now, the players, they just recently slayed a dragon, and they offered a funeral for it, so that way, the dragon's spirit wouldn't disturb the town that they adopted, and they buried the dragon in town, so that way, as its magical essence sort of decays, it will filter out through the city, giving all sorts of helpful benefits. If you want to see another one of my videos, though, here on the channel, how about my video putting aspects of Ready Player One into D&D? That fits, here. It's a sci-fi world with plenty of modern techno magic going on. But that's all I have for you today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. Put what you thought about it in the comments below. Till next time, I'm the Aries1999. Have a great day, and God bless.